I will. Let's get this rolling. This is going to be fun. Thanks, Crinder. Oh, it is recording. I'm like, are you recording it? Sorry. Awesome. So, okay, welcome to the world of live streaming. I'm Dawn Carter. Welcome to Blab. This is the good Blab. It's 10:30 Friday morning, and this is the regular show where I get to introduce some of my favorite do-gooders in the world to some of my favorite Blab people. Folks who are making a change in the world that typically aren't either heard, seen. They're not the usual suspects, and they're kind of disrupting either their industry or doing something innovative in how they're addressing needs in the world. So I welcome you. My name is Dawn Carter, and this is my high-tech sign here. So I'm at dcart on Twitter and on the socials here in Blab. And today I'm really, really honored to have Brian Fleming, a friend I've recently met. Hi, Brian. Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm super excited. As you've probably, post it so you can put it on my kit. Here we go. There we go. So, as you probably probably noticed from the welcome card, that we're going to be talking today. It happens to be in the United States Veterans Day this week, and we're going to chat with someone who actually has combat experience, who has quite an interesting and wonderful story, and his name's Brian. And I just wanted to introduce him to my Blab friends. So Brian, thanks again for coming on. And this is your first time on Blab too, right?
It is. I'd never even heard of Blab until about a month ago when you and I met in Oklahoma City at the Place conference.
Yeah. So it is just one of my secret missions is to also introduce my friends to this platform, because it's a great way to continue conversations or share stories that need to be shared. That's how I view it. So welcome, everyone. And Brian, can you go ahead and, for those that might not be familiar with a little bit of your background, can you just let us know a little bit about what is it that makes Brian Brian?
Well, my mission in life is to really help people stand firm when everything around them is blowing up, so that they can create a more meaningful life and use their story to make a difference. My background is military, and you probably see this sign. This is actually the sign I see every day when I walk into my office, because it's right next to my computer, and it says, "You're not paid to work, you're paid for results."
Nice.
And I've realized that in life, nobody really cares about your story. They care about what it can do for them. And in the military, that's the cutthroat way it is, and that's life and business. And the sooner people realize that, the better. But my mission really is to help people stand firm through their life situations, and to really help them overcome the pain of their past and redeem their story. Because everyone has a story. There's usually tragedy somewhere in it, and a lot of people get held back by the tragedy. Well, I've been very fortunate to have overcome a lot of the tragedies I've faced. And one of the big reasons that happened was because better people than me came into my life, and they showed me how. They helped me along. And so that's become my mission. I mean, I was once the character in the story, so to speak. Well, now I've had so many mentors at this point. I've had the opportunity to mentor a lot of other people. And I mean, mentorship changed my life. Mentorship is everything. And So it's the only reason I'm here today talking to you.
That's awesome. So Brian mentioned that we met about a month ago in Oklahoma City at, there's an organization called the Mentoring Project that we're both kind of familiar with. And I was there basically talking about using social media to bring tribes together. And while we were just chit-chatting, I just was really struck by the strength that, or the ability, Brian, that you had to take something that was tragic and spin it, reframe it, and the role that mentoring, had in that. I thought that was pretty remarkable. And it sounds like you're really taking what was given to you and just passing that along.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what life is all about. I mean, at the end of our lives, all that's really going to matter is what we did for other people.
Right.
And I realized that at one of the worst times in my life, when I hit rock bottom.
Wow. So I know that you said people don't care about stories, but some people do, and some people want it. It helps kids.
Here, I'll clarify. People love stories, but they really care about yours because they're trying to figure out what it is that they can get out of your story that they can apply to their lives in order to, so they can have a better one and they can move forward in life. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
love stories though. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they connect, right? I mean, they're the things that basically they put flesh and, meat on the bones of an idea of who you might be. And so you just mentioned you were able to come to this realization at one of the lowest parts of your life. What was some of the background? You don't have to go into all the detail, but whatever you're comfortable sharing. I mean, this is, this may end up, giving hope to someone else. So what was going on in your life when you came to that realization?
Well, I mean, my life has been, there's a lot of background noise. I don't know who that is, just so you know, I can hear a lot of it though.
Let me go ahead and mute this.
Maybe if we can mute backgrounds, or it might be Carinder also, I'm not sure. Yeah, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. There's just a lot of background music. I think it was him. No, my background, I mean, really, I grew up just west of Detroit, Michigan, and parents divorced when I was about 11 or 12. Really violent divorce, really bad situation. Went through a bad breakup at 19 with a woman I thought I was going to marry. And then at 21 years old, I was in Afghanistan with the U.S. Army's 10th Mountain Division. I was a team leader in an infantry platoon. And while there, my vehicle was blown up twice. The first one I walked away from completely unharmed, miraculously. And we ran over a bomb on the road, and it blew up the vehicle and set it on fire. I had to drag one of my guys out who was catching on fire, and he was half conscious. Both guys who were injured, they returned to duty a month later. Nobody died, so very grateful for that. And then a few months later, can you have Carinder mute his background? I just can't hear anything. Are you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't hear it now. So anyway, so that was on April 18th of 2006, and then a few months later, on July 24th of 2006, I was in the lead vehicle of about a 15 vehicle convoy driving through Kandahar, Afghanistan, when a minivan pulled right up next to my door of my vehicle and exploded, and it was being driven by a suicide bomber, and he blew up about 3 feet away from me. The only thing between me and him was the armor plated and door with bulletproof glass for windows, which remained intact, by the way. And so I love that stuff, bulletproof glass. I love it. It's good stuff. And even though it was there, I was still injured because I was so close to the blast. I had 2nd-degree burns on my face and neck, which is obviously now healed. If you go to blownupguy.com, you can see pictures of what I actually look like after I woke up in a ditch on the side of the road. Blownupguy.com is my website that I use for speaking and getting my message out, just because it's easy to remember. And not only that, though, but my hands were 3rd-degree burns, required reconstructive surgery, 14 months at Brooke Army Medical Center. The doctors had to scrape my burn-charred skin off with razor blades while I was still awake and conscious. They didn't sedate me for it because a lot of times they have to do it multiple times, and if they put you under too many times, they're afraid to slip into a coma.
Wow.
But then at the same time, they have to do it fast, because you can literally go into shock from the amount of pain you experienced during that procedure. And really, I was 21 at the time.
Oh my gosh.
21. And so that was really what I call my 3rd great life tragedy, and at 21. And so now I'm thinking, wow, I'm 21 years old, 3rd great life tragedy. I can't wait to see what beholds me at 28. It seems like every 7 years. Now I'm 31 now, and I've been riding this wave for a while, and I'm just praying and believing it's going to keep at the pace it's at, because it's really turned up. It's really been very good. But I learned through all those experiences so much that I couldn't have learned otherwise. What that bad thing, I had this feeling inside me after waking up in the ditch, and they got me to the hospital, and I was laying there, and they hadn't given me any medication yet. I remember something inside me. It wasn't any sort of audible voice or anything like that. It was just a voice inside me that said something like, basically, Brian, life is never going to be the same. I didn't know what that meant, but I knew somehow life is never going to be the same. Something just changed forever in my life. And in that situation, I was tempted to think it would be a bad thing. And that's what a lot of people would think.
Right.
But it completely has gone opposite in the other direction. I have never had a better life since all of that. And there are a few factors that contribute to that we can talk about as well.
Wow. That is, I mean, I think, thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's probably not a pleasant thing to have to share, but to be able to, share that and make that part of, who people understand you to be. I mean, that was part of what contributed to, who and where you are now. I think one of the things that I learned a couple days ago is that a lot of times people don't talk about those things or don't share. And I think that that's one of the things that you're modeling for everyone is talk about those hard things.
Well, here's the thing, too. A lot of people don't want to talk about their difficult situation because it can be difficult for some people. But given my personality type, for whatever reason, I never had an issue talking about my experiences. People ask me about it and they say, are you okay talking about it? I just say, yeah, some guy blew himself up, tried to kill us all, and he was the only one who died that day. That's pretty much it. Yeah, I got burned, but I'm better. I can use my hands again. I got skin grafts on my hands, and so they're scarred, but I have full functioning use of them and full range of motion. And I mean, life's fine now. But here's what I learned. Because when I started speaking, I had no intention of talking about this. But what I've learned is that familiarity breeds contentment, not contempt. In my situation, familiarity breeds contentment, because I found the more I talked about it, the less any negative experience I would have with talking about it. The more familiar I became with it, the more accustomed I began becoming to it, that it didn't affect me in the same way that it could have once done so.
Yes.
And a big part of that reason, too, was because I was seeing other people's lives change for the better simply by knowing about what happened to me. And that really redeemed the experience, I guess you could say, because it really made it purpose-driven. It really gave it a meaning for happening. If I had to find one, it really helped fulfill that. And we all have that. Everyone wants to know that things happen for a reason.
Right, right. So it sounds like it was able to give you some of that perspective or that reframing. Wow. So let's see. Okay, your video came back. So Brian, walk us through, you were 21. You had this tragedy happen to you while you were there. What did life look like when you came home? What was that like?
Well, I arrived home 3 days after the explosion, and so the military got me home very quick. My wife and I had been married only 3 months prior to my deployment to Afghanistan. And so I got to see her for the first time in about 5 or 6 months. And she stuck by my side. And here in a couple of weeks, we're going to be celebrating 10 years of marriage. And 99.9% of that has been combat and post-combat, which is more or less unheard of. I mean, the divorce rate in the military is astronomical. But then you factor in the injury, that even shrinks that number even more. I mean, Camp Pendleton alone out in California near you, their own numbers indicate that they have about an 85% divorce rate among their troops. And it's just a slaughter. And to think that not only did I come home and remain married, but with my injury and all the issues that came with that on top of that, I'm not from Texas, but we live here now. My wife is from here. I always tell them here in Texas, when it comes to your women, y'all make them good down here, because I'm from the north. They call me a Yankee, and but I don't mind eating their food and marrying their women. So it really got me a good one, and she stuck with me. And so we're one of the success stories. Our marriage isn't built on the back seat of a car, though. It's built on a solid rock of faith, and we were in alignment there.
Wow.
And I think that's a huge contributor.
Did you just say you just had your 10th anniversary, or you're coming up? Oh my gosh.
Here on December 3rd,
that's a
it'll be 10 years.
milestone. I mean,
so it's coming up in a couple of weeks.
It's a milestone for people who haven't seen combat. I mean, that is just something that's really, really a gift. I think that's so neat. So one of the things that I noticed that you're able to do now is you talked before about someone came into your life and really shared hope with you and was able to move you through some of those really difficult times. What does it look like for you now? I mean, you talked about mentoring, and that's where we met, with the mentors drink coffee like a boss. What does mentoring look like for you right now?
Well, again, the thing with my injury is that I met my mentor literally almost 5 months after my injury, almost to the day. I was injured on July 24th. I met my mentor on January 25th, just about 5 months later. And I didn't have a whole lot of time to fall through the cracks because when I met him, he was an injured Vietnam veteran. He had half his face burned off, half his body burned off from Vietnam. And he had a phosphorus grenade explode right next to his face. When he went to throw it, he got shot in the hand, sniper aiming for his head. It blew his hand, blew the grenade. And his name's Dave Reaver, and he's written books and spoken for about 40 some years now. And he and our paths just collided. And I knew if anybody can show me the way out of this, it's him, because I knew he had been where I'd been, but he didn't stay there. I connected with him on the level of our injuries, and I also knew he had the credibility because he had lived it. He had been through what I was going through, and he had made it out successfully. And so the meaning and mentorship, and through that, I really discovered a greater mission for my life that served a cause greater than all of us.
Of hearing about him being able to connect with you because of the pain and the tragedy he had been in. But I love the way you just said that he'd been where I'd been, but he didn't stay. I think that is where one of the, that's just kind of that beautiful but most powerful little bridge is what you just mentioned. It's he can relate to me. I can emotionally connect with this person, but they've moved and healed and made progress. So is that kind of what you're being able to now help extend to other folks as well?
Absolutely, because that's the power of our story. I mean, everybody has a story, and people relate to different levels. I mean, you can talk about your success all day long, and that's great if you can give somebody some pointers and tips. But what people really relate to is pain. People, I mean, it brings the weirdest people together. Men, women, different race, different color, different religions, different ethnicity, different languages. I mean, I've spoken in places around the world where I didn't even speak their language, and there was impact because of the translation of what I was saying. It didn't matter. I mean, we're all the same, and people relate to pain. And my greatest pain has now become my greatest power to do good in the world. And that right there is a true act of God. I mean, that typically you hear about bad situations like mine, you usually don't hear that. And that's not because I'm some sort of exception. I am in a way, but I don't mean that in the sense that I'm an exceptional person, in the sense that I'm better than anybody. I mean, most people didn't have a Dave Reaver come into their life when they needed it most, a mentor to guide them through and to help them through the hell that they were experiencing. I mean, it was supposed to happen. And it did in my life. And I realized not everybody has that. Well, my mission now is to be that Dave Reaver, so to speak, in other people's lives, because if everything I know dies with me and I don't equip other people to use their story, then that's just a tragedy, because there's a ripple effect that goes throughout generations. I mean, my life was changed. My one life was changed because he was willing to father me, so to speak, and be a father figure in my life I never really had when he didn't have to do it.
Wow.
But because of that, I've been doing this 8 to 10 years now. I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of people. I've written multiple books. I speak all over the globe. And that's just so cool. Like, I never actually knew anybody did this, but I've been able to see other people's lives change for the better because of what a suicide bomber tried to do, which he was the only one to die that day, by the way. So my hat's off to him. Mission accomplished, sort of. He didn't take any of us with him, but he certainly fell to pieces, that's for sure. And it was interesting, though, but somebody showed me how to use my story, which is, I'm actually launching a program right now over the next few months called Use Your Story.
Awesome.
And I'll plug it right now even. It's at useyourstory.com. I'm teaching other people, other tragedy survivors, how to transform their life experience into a compelling cause that makes a real difference.
Wonderful. And
because that's
I think
what life is all about.
So powerful, Brian, is that really in this day and age where people feel connected because of social media or all these things, that really it comes back to that humanness. You know, there's that aspect of, I had a pain and someone please extend a hand. I mean, that kindness that, basically gets to transfer, it came from your mentor who reached a hand out, like you said, when you needed it. And he did it. I mean, I'm hearing two things. It was the timing was right and the motivation was right. I mean, no, you use that phrase, no one made him do it. I mean, yeah, what a Yeah, what a genuine act
No,
of
he didn't
love.
have to.
Yeah, to be able to extend that, and I think that's just amazing. And now to see what he poured into you is now something that's fueling. Like you said, I mean, it was an act of, it was faith. I mean, there really is an ability for your story to be redeemed, but that's part of your mission, is to make sure that other people don't stay stuck.
Yeah, and
Sure.
you want to know the real power of mentorship? Here's a perfect example in my life. I was 23 years old when I started working with him. I had never had a mentor / father figure type in my life up until that point. And between 23 and about 30, which is where I'm at now, 31, I was able to grow personally more, to personally develop, to professionally develop, to grow more in my career and in life as a human being. I accomplished more in that 5 to 7 year period than I had in the previous 23 years combined, all because I met just one person that taught me a few things. He didn't do it for me. He told me what I needed to do, and a lot of it was left up to me to do it and figure it out, and he would guide me and give me pointers, but it was all on me to do. But just one person. And I often think back, what if I'd have had somebody like that since I was born? That's the power of fatherhood, or a mentorship right there, because it can change everything, not just that person, but everybody they reach over the course of their lives, which goes into the billions. I mean, if you get just a few people that really have an impact.
Brian, even just something that I appreciate is that, you just said the power that we have to influence a life. You said, you used the phrase before that familiarity breeds contentment, instead of contempt. I think even that's a great reminder for even me personally to take away, that there are, in my role as a parent, I've got 3 kids, that I have the power to change the trajectory of another human being's life. And sometimes we can take that for granted. Is it because you're so familiar? I see you all the time, but to be able to look, and I have to, because I'm the mom, my husband has to, because he's the dad. But what you're talking about is people that are choosing to go to someone that lacks that. And I think that was, or who needed it at that time. And I just think, what a beautiful example of, incarnating hope. I just love, Man, I love that. So right now, what does that, what does a typical day for you look like now with, your newfound direction and not newfound, but with the mission of bringing that kind of hope to other people? What is a typical, what does a typical week look like for you?
Well, usually I'm on the road, usually once or twice a week, depending. So I'm traveling, living in airports and hotels and eating airport food and hotel food. But when I'm not on the road, when I'm back here, I'm here at my office right now, and I'm planning my next mission. In between my speaking, that's my mission. But what am I doing more to serve people beyond the speaking? Right now I'm developing, useyourstory.com, which we do have a free thing up there, by the way, which people can download, just get started and answer those key questions they don't know the answers to typically, about how they can start using their story and set it up right. But also, I'm writing another book right now, and that's actually going to be put off until I'm done with this program, because I can't handle more than one big project at a time, and I wouldn't want to. It would dilute my efforts. But I'm planning that. I have some people assisting me, coordinating logistics with the camera crew and everyone else, and getting that stuff done, so that when I go out and speak, I don't just offer a talk for 45 minutes and then I'm done and they never see me again, or they just get a book, but they can personally interact with me and they can personally learn from me. Because I meet so many people who say, Brian, I have a story too, but I don't know where to begin. Where do I even start? There's so much to my story. I don't even know where to begin. Who would even care and want to hear it? All these questions that people just don't know how to answer, and I have the simple answers for them. It's not hard. It's kind of like I always say, nothing's difficult when you know how to do it. And so it's and I asked all these questions too, but I had a mentor who just told me how to do it. I just went and did what he said. It was that easy. And
Wow.
so that's
So
kind of what a typical
I think
day
one
looks
of the
like for me.
things that I love that you're really taking what your platform or what your core message is, and you're finding ways to extend that beyond the actual event itself. I think that that's, a lot of people are just in it to, let me get that speaking gig and I do it, and then it's, see ya. And I think that there's this, what I'm hearing is this element of, I want to see transformation. I want to equip the people that are hearing, and this is just the beginning, the beginning of what can become with their story. I mean, or that process.
Well, and there's different levels that we can serve people at. And once you've done one level for so long, you kind of get tired of it. It's good and it's necessary, but at least for me, it's the need to expand, to do it in another way, and maybe in a deeper way that reaches more people or helps other people in a different way pertaining to that overall mission of helping people use their story and make a difference in the world.
Yeah. I mean, this is just remarkable.
I believe that's why I'm still here.
One of the things that I wanted to make sure, just looking at the time, we have about maybe 10 more minutes, but one of the things I wanted to make sure that we covered is this being Veterans Day, the day after Veterans Day week, I guess. One of the things I would love to know is, I know that you have a heart for people that have transitioned. Your book, Redeployed, kind of goes over that. Can you share a little bit with what the content of what that was and what caused you to write that?
Yeah. Redeployed, it's about how combat veterans can fight the battle within and win the war at home. I co-authored it with a buddy of mine, Chad Robichaux, who was in the Marine Corps. He did 8 or 9 tours in Afghanistan, came back with severe post-traumatic stress. And I did my one tour, part of it, and got so severely injured I was put out of the military. And so we put our heads together because him and I, at this point in life, we've both overcome those issues and moved forward productively. He's about 10 years older than me, and he and his wife Kathy just celebrated 20 years of marriage. Me and Jamie are going on 10. So the big thing was, we know the issues these men and women are dealing with, and what's causing them to divorce, to kill themselves, to get hooked on drugs and sink into these depressions and destroy their lives. They come back home, they're stellar in combat, but they come home and they don't even know who the new enemy is or even how to fight them. And it's reintegrating and the responsibilities that you didn't normally have in the military. And then you've got, your career and your family. Well, then you're a little bit different after combat. Well, then your spouse has to adjust to that also, and you don't even realize sometimes. And so there's all these things. Well, Chad and I, we both moved forward successfully and productively. We're living very fulfilling and meaningful lives, and we really felt obligated to share that. And so in Redeployed, I give my perspective, and then in the other half of the chapter, he gives his perspective. So it's a dual voice coming from 2 different directions, people 2 different ages, from the same war, dealing with how we productively dealt with the same issues everyone's getting destroyed by. It's really sad, but it's an obligation. And I think anybody with any information for others that can help them, when you know the answer to something, it's your obligation as a human being to get out there and share it with them.
The idea of, you're running from a burning building and you know the way out, and you turn around and see there are a bunch of other people that are like, where's the way out? And that sounds like a moral obligation, from what I'm hearing you say, is that we were there, we know, and we made it out, and we can help you.
Yeah.
I mean, that just is just tremendous.
Oh, and actually, I see that link from the New York Times.
Oh, it
That's
is?
actually
Okay.
a book that came out
Sorry
after
about that.
ours. That's not us. Yeah, the name is no. I just saw that. The name is so close. I don't even know why they picked it. Ours is
Googled
Redeployed.
Sorry about that.
It's redeployedbook.com. Yeah. No. I don't. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that a few months ago.
Yeah,
and I thought, wow, that's so close. But no worries.
Got it.
Redeployed book. Yeah, Redeployed book.
Yeah, so that's a different one. So sorry about that. So Blab folk, be sure. But
oh, no worries. I mean, I'm sure that's.
So
I'm sure that's
I'm
a good
not.
one too. I just haven't read it, so
that's
I
the
can't
danger
say.
of dropping links in without a co-host. So but yeah. So I think. So you had mentioned something too about that book, that the message is so important that you want it to get out to people. And I don't know if this is something. I mean, what do people do that say, hey, I know someone that needs that or who's struggling with transitioning. So obviously they can go click on this and get a copy of that or send that.
Yeah. Yeah, just go to redeployedbook.com, and when you order through there, you're actually going to get an automatically responded message where we're going to send you I think it's 5 or 6 now, free videos that accompany the book. And so when you go get that, you're going to get those in your email as well that are just in addition. And these are video lessons. They're not very long. They're very short, but we put them in there as extras. And some of these have even been aired on national television.
Nice. So these are again, the target audience really for those videos are people who actually are wrestling and living through that, then, like either.
Yeah, I mean, we really geared the content towards the military, but here's the thing. We had a huge civilian response to the book launch and we realized, because we were so narrow-minded going after the military, we didn't realize the impact it would have in the civilian world. And what we realized was this: we were not addressing how to deal with military issues in this book. We were discussing how to deal with human issues in this book, because even though everyone has different experiences, everybody deals with there's only a handful of issues everyone deals with after going through trauma or setback or loss. And so we're addressing those issues. And so it wasn't just people who are in the military that it helps. It's actually a book for anybody who's been through something tragic or loss.
So, I mean, just thinking about that, I mean, the content of this book is going to be helpful for people that are loved ones of people that are, knowing what to say, what not to say, those types of things, and having realistic expectations of what the process is that you're going through. You're both going through.
Yeah, and that's one of the responses we've been getting from spouses is that it's helped them understand the person in their life who's struggling in a way that the person didn't know how to communicate to them. And it's helping their marriages. It's helping save marriages. We had one guy, I think it was an Amazon review. He was a soldier, and he said, this book told my wife things I didn't know how to tell her, and it's helped our marriage. I mean, and we didn't plan on that happening, but that's just one of the big effects of it. I'll tell you what, can I tell you a really amazing story? I know we're almost out of time, but there's a story I have to tell you. I think it'd be a good way to cap off this interview. You never know what doors are going to open or why. And this is a story that I often refer to as, I've given it the title in my next book. It is Stranger Than Fiction in Kuwait City on a Sandy Day. Now, this truly is stranger than fiction. I had the opportunity to go back into Afghanistan in 2013 as a civilian, speak to the troops. The door opened. It was a short window, so I did what I do. I jumped in. All right. And the whole week I was there, we jumped around to different bases, spoke to the troops, visited the troops, and I didn't really leave anything on the battlefield there when I was injured. And so I didn't really feel like I was going back for me. But I was looking for something that I can take out of this experience as like the reason I went. Because I really didn't know why I took the opportunity. I just did. And after 6 or 7 days in Afghanistan, we flew out. We left. We were coming back to America. And we landed in Kuwait City. And we had a few hours between the time we landed, and probably 6 hours between the time we landed and the time we were going to take off to come back to America and fly to D.C. And I was still kind of wondering, why did I come on this trip? There was like a small piece of a detail missing. I didn't know what it was. But as I'm walking from, near Kuwait City on this base, near Kuwait City, all right, 7 billion people on the planet, right? I'm near Kuwait City, of all places. And as I'm walking down this sidewalk, about 100-meter stretch, off to my 7 or 8 o'clock, I hear somebody yell, "Sergeant Fleming." Now that's weird, because I'm in military fatigues, the black sunglasses, the ballistic sunglasses they give us. It's sunny outside. We all look the same. And from about 30 or 40 yards away, this guy is jogging up to me. And I'm thinking, who in the world recognizes me here? Not to mention, with all the gear on, we all look the same. And the guy comes running up. His name was Sergeant Mike Stagg. He's one of my best friends. He's the guy during the suicide blast. No. He was my medic who was driving my vehicle. He's the guy who pulled me out of that burning vehicle that day and saved my life. We hadn't seen each other in 7 years. This was 2013. I was injured in 2006. All right. we hadn't seen each other since that day that we experienced hell together. And here's the thing. We sat down and we talked, and the Army Times even published an article on this, so I'm at liberty to use it. He told me about some issues he had dealt with since that day with some guilt, because he felt he should have been up in the gun turret where my gunner was, because my gunner was peppered with shrapnel, and he lost his right eye and everything. And he felt bad and guilty because he felt that he should have been up there, because he was originally going to be up there, but he knew the way. So he and I, being both the ranking guys, we were both sergeants, we decided he would drive the vehicle, because the last thing we need to do is get lost on the way to where we're going. And I told him, I said, that wasn't your fault. You made the right decision. That's what any smart commander would have done. That anybody in authority in this situation, that was the right move. And he said in that moment, a burden of 6 years lifted off his shoulders. And I never knew he was dealing with this, because we lost touch with each other. The last time he saw me, I was bloodied and messed up. And again, if you go to blownupguy.com, you can see the pictures of me. They're right there on the page, me and the vehicle, and blood is pretty graphic. But here's what I learned, and I'll tie it up right here. This is what I've learned. Sometimes things happen to us, but I believe that they're not for us. And sometimes you will get sent back into the place that hurt you the worst, and you might not understand why. Sometimes you go back into that place that hurt you the worst only because you're supposed to see your friend on the way out. It was never about me going back into Afghanistan. This didn't even happen in Afghanistan. This happened in Kuwait City, in Kuwait, on the way back from Afghanistan. So I went all the way into a war zone for a week just so I could see my friend on the way out.
And no one even knew that you were stopping. I mean, this is totally unscheduled. Oh my gosh. So Brian, what a powerful lesson. I mean, just what a powerful story. It's like, this is amazing to think what a gift you were able to give your friend. I mean, those are.
And this stuff happens a lot, not just in my life, but like people think, oh, that must be so rare. This kind of stuff happens. You never know what it can happen in your life.
This is
or
just
through your life.
I can't help but think that that God is definitely directing and guiding these appointments, because it's kind of got the fingerprints
Absolutely.
all over it of you know what, here's what was evil was turned to good. There's redemption of something that was meant to destroy you. And now there is the saving of many lives, or restoring of many lives because of that. But it wasn't all just something that's happening to you. You were cooperating. What I hear is you were cooperating along that healing. You didn't stay stuck, and right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And somebody else had to cooperate with that redemption of your story. If you think about that, just think if Dave was your mentor, David, if he hadn't responded or cooperated to that prompting to reach out to this, destroyed 23-year-old, 21-year-old, when you met him 5 months, after that, your injury, all along, we are invited to cooperate into reaching into other people's stories. And I guess really that is a great way to wrap it up, is how will we respond? How will we respond to the prompting of, can I take what was meant for evil and flip it and be able to interject that hope that someone needed, and really be used like as an instrument of God to bring about change.
Man, well, it's yeah. I mean, it's just like the Bible says, God can work all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. And I believe I am. And this is no doing of mine. This is just the story of my life. And I'll end by saying this. Honestly, this sounds crazy, and maybe I am crazy, but at this point in my life, this is just the truth. Getting attacked by a suicide bomber never felt so good. I don't regret it. I wouldn't wish it upon anybody, especially myself, but it happened. I don't regret it. I'm not sad it happened. I'm glad it happened. I have a better life now more than ever. I'm able to help more people now than I ever imagined was possible, in more ways than I ever knew possible. My life is great because of this horrible thing that happened. So my experience has been redeemed.
Very much wish you the best. I mean, I can't wait to revisit with you in 6 months and find out the new crazy stories that you have, because I love these divine appointments are just, I mean, that's a whole nother book, it's just like really, it's just, But I mean, but
That's
to be
why-
able
that's
to,
why I
I
keep
guess,
writing them.
why this is so exciting for me is, again, going back to the blab that I was on a couple days ago with Revelry Joe, the new person that I just met on Blab. And I mean, the reality of this, the 22 vets who take their lives every day in the United States, it's because of depression and untreated and loneliness and the despair. And that story is too common. And so wouldn't it be nice to have this be the flip side of that story if we all respond to what we're all being called to individually? Because who doesn't know someone who's, who's been out in the, in the military? I mean, someone in our lives, whether in our family or in our circles or in our churches or at our work, has been, maybe silently suffering. And I think that this will be a wonderful ring of hope to be able to say, you know what, the work isn't done. And we all can do our part to, whether it's inviting someone over for dinner and getting to know them so that they don't have to suffer in silence. So I just appreciate the things that you shared, Brian.
Yeah.
It's been an honor and a privilege. And so everyone, again, my name's Dawn Carter at DCart on the socials, and this is Brian Fleming. If you're watching on the replays, please share any of the resources that were listed along the side, or connect up with Brian on Twitter or Facebook or through his website. And let's keep changing and redeeming those stories as we see the role of reaching out of our comfort zones to change the stories of someone else. So, Brian, I wish you the best.
Well, thank you. Your story isn't over yet, and your story matters. And thank you so much for having me as a part of it.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I'm going to go ahead and